For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey! Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to 30-odd minutes, the most important 30 minutes of television ever. Ever. All right, tonight we're talking about parapsychology, the study of things that go bump in the night, the academic study. I know we've had lots of ghost hunters on in the past. We did have a parapsychologist once. We had Lloyd Auerbach on. That was way back when. So, good topic, great topic. We're going to be talking about it. Want to remind you folks, if you're watching the show at 30oddminutes.com, you can always jump in our chat room and interact with Sarah and Oddbot 3000. Rob is hiding for the moment. Might be here later. And get involved. Join us on Twitter. Join us on Facebook. We want to hear from you. We love getting your emails and your field reports. And we did get some emails this week. Sarah, what did our lovely viewers want to know?
All right. Or say. Lots of good stuff. So this one was in regards to the show that we just did. It said, outstanding show tonight. Having been to Gettysburg, I totally agree with you that when you're there, a strange feeling comes over you. You just know that you're in a special place. I can't wait to go back when I can spend more time there. The only other place I ever got a similar feeling was when I visited Ground Zero, when it was still a big hole in the ground. Keep up the great work, guys, and I hope you can bring Mark back so he can share more stories. Thanks, Linda in Bellingham.
Aww.
Local fan. Local.
Wow,
She likes
fans in Bellingham.
We have fans in Bellingham, Massachusetts. That's amazing. All the way. Thank you so much. We appreciate the feedback. Send us your hate mail too. We love it. Your trinkets, your odd stuff. We love hearing from you guys. Okay, parapsychology. The paranormal is an amazing field. It encompasses so much stuff. And people ask, skeptics quite rightly ask, how can we prove this stuff is real? How do we test it? How do we know there's more to it than just a story? Parapsychology is a field that's been around a long time and has been trying to test some of these things. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about great haunts, especially over in Europe, and we've got a great guest to do it tonight. Dr. Ciaran O is a parapsychologist based in England. He received his undergraduate degree from Washington College here in the U.S. He then went on to get a master's degree in investigative psychology at Liverpool University, where he looked into the mental makeup of serial killers and criminals. If that isn't an entree into the paranormal, I don't know what is. In 2005, he was awarded a doctorate entitled Assessing the Content of Advice Given by Practitioners Claiming Paranormal Ability. And if I don't smell movie rights getting picked up off of that title alone, then I don't know much about Hollywood, which is true, actually. That's from the University of Hertfordshire. He's perhaps best known as the parapsychologist from the television shows Jane Goldman Investigates and, of course, Most Haunted. He's the author of The Great Paranormal Clash. That's his latest book. Please welcome live in our studios, Dr. Ciaran O. Yeah! Woohoo! There we are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Please don't let us down after that introduction.
I know, that was an amazing introduction.
Oh, I know. Well, thank you for coming here. We appreciate it.
That's okay. Yeah,
Special show.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes. Well, you're the first to say that, actually. So we're very flattered. So talk to me. What's the nature of parapsychology, especially in the UK today? Where's the field at?
Well, let's be clear first of all, parapsychology is the scientific study of the paranormal.
Right.
Fundamentally ESP and PK, and you find people studying it mainly in universities. However, it's a very poor situation. We've got maybe 3 or 4 places in the UK, and I would estimate maybe 6 or 7 in Europe in total that are actually studying parapsychology, so not very many at all.
Right, and that's been on the decline?
It has been on the decline, yeah. There was a really famous parapsychology unit in Edinburgh. For the last 20 years they've been doing some great research, but that lost its funding.
Right.
Lost Bob Morris, who's kind of the father of parapsychology, and because of that we've seen a decline over the last decade in parapsychology and where it's researched.
Which is so weird to me because paranormal shows are everywhere. Every network has got multiple, not even one anymore. I mean, even Animal Planet has got a paranormal show. So the popular is more popular than ever, the subject is,
yeah.
And yet the actual academic study of it is on the decline. Same here in the US, it's abysmal. It's more abysmal than in Europe.
Well, I think students still go to university hoping that they can study parapsychology, but there are no undergraduate degrees in it. You
Right.
can take maybe a module in it, take a semester in it, but that's about it. parapsychologists, genuine parapsychologists, are qualified obviously to doctorate level, and I think that's the thing. You're kind of dealing with an area where people see it on the TV, and it's kind of the, well, I hesitate to say this, it's the junk food version of parapsychology. You can get a quick fix, you can visit a haunted environment, whereas actually studying parapsychology is perhaps a lot more mundane than what people see on TV.
And I think junk food is a great analogy, because I imagine if one has a degree in parapsychology, if you're not on TV, you are probably serving French fries?
Possibly, yeah. There aren't very many jobs around at the end of the day. There's maybe 50 or 60 genuinely qualified parapsychologists in the world.
Right.
That's it. And yet they're fighting for maybe a quarter of that in terms of jobs. So there aren't many jobs around. And that's of course the problem.
Yeah. Well, and funding, I mean, funding of course is key.
Yeah, funding, and of course the way it's perceived by the rest of science. Physics, chemistry, biology, they have funding all over the place, whereas parapsychology, there's maybe only 3 or 4, like a handful of places you can actually get funding, and part of it is because parapsychology is not necessarily viewed by some people as an actual science.
Sure, and we actually spoke about this a little earlier today, where psychology, I asked my sister the reason why psychologists aren't looking at the ghost phenomena a little more, and she had said, if we start talking about ghosts, it sets us back 100 years as far as credibility. And she's right. I mean, it's a very honest answer. It's unfortunate. It is.
It is. And you don't just find psychologists involved in the parapsychology field. You do find historians, sociologists, folklorists, and of course for them it's a bit more acceptable to look at ghost phenomena and paranormal phenomena. But you're right, psychology, it's a bit difficult to try and make it, an established.
And what's interesting, you have a background. You've studied criminal minds. You've studied people. I mean, you need psychology before you can add the para to it.
Yeah.
And human behavior and human perception, which is such a vital role when it comes to experiencing the paranormal. Now, when I've always thought of parapsychologist as studying powers of the mind, ESP, PK, psychokinesis, telekinesis, things like that. Do parapsychologists branch out into other aspects of the paranormal, like UFO research, like Bigfoot and things like that?
Simple answer, no.
Great. Next question.
That's the fringe areas, and it is just ESP and PK, and then there's a few of us that look into haunting phenomena and poltergeist phenomena. But anything beyond that is not parapsychology.
Well,
sorry.
Who's snooty now? Huh? The parapsychologists on their high horse in the Crystal Palace. Leave it to the folklorists to deal with the monsters. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Okay. Well, so at what point do you make the leap from academic folklorist to the guy on television? What's the difference between a paranormal investigation in real life and one that has to be done for a television show?
Well, my colleagues know I wear different hats. I wear a TV hat and I wear parapsychologist hat as an academic. Mm-hmm. And my peer-reviewed articles, my presentations at conferences, my experiments kind of speak for themselves. But that's very different to the TV world. I was brought into Most Haunted, Jane Goldman Investigates, as a parapsychologist to kind of talk about alternative explanations. But at the end of the day, people watching those shows and other shows, they see an investigation, they think that's how it is in reality, and they also think that's what a parapsychologist does. We're not Ghostbusters at the end of the day. We do lab work.
Sorry. We're not Ghostbusters.
Not Ghostbusters,
says the man with the Ghostbusters shirt.
Yeah,
right, okay,
love it.
Fine.
We're not Ghostbusters, but we do stuff in the lab. But also there's the other side of it. The actual investigations that parapsychologists might do in haunted locations, although we don't do them that often, are long, mundane, there's a lot of data involved, a lot of experimental work, and it just wouldn't make for an exciting TV program.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about some of these haunts, especially over in England. Hampton Court Palace, several years ago, it made international news. I recall seeing a video where you see this robed figure burst open a door, caught on a security camera, and the security guards, of course, said no one was back there. Still, a great old English castle, of course, and great history and haunting legends that existed well before that video.
Yeah.
Can we bring it up? Actually, I think we have a picture of it. So there it is. Here we are, right in front of Hampton Court Palace.
Yeah.
What are the legends here?
Well, the main one is associated with what's called the Haunted Gallery. Mm-hmm. It's Catherine Howard, who was the 5th wife of Henry VIII. When she found out she was going to be beheaded, the story goes that she actually approached Henry VIII and begged for her life. She was dragged, kicking and screaming, along the corridor, which of course is now known as the Haunted Gallery.
Right.
And so since the turn of the century, so since after kind of 1600s, basically you started to get stories associated around that. People having haunting experiences, sense of presence, even people seeing the woman in white being dragged down the corridor. And that's the main focus for Hampton Court Palace and the main area of hauntings.
So you get drawn in by the story. What's the research? How do you research a place like that and a story that old?
Well, for me, Hampton Court Palace still remains one of my favourite locations, partly because in 2000 I was part of a university research team and I actually got to live there for 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So, you know, it's a hard life, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely amazing. We were testing things like suggestion. Could that be responsible for people's haunting experiences in the haunted gallery? But also looking at local magnetic fields. Could that affect people's brains in such a way they think they're having a haunting experience?
Right.
We didn't actually find any evidence for suggestion or even prior knowledge. People were having experiences regardless of that. But we did find evidence of higher levels of magnetic fields in the actual haunted areas versus the control areas, and that's interesting.
Are you of the opinion that that does affect certain people's perceptions? Can it create hallucinations? And if it can create hallucinations, can it create very specific ones of a historical figure?
Yeah, I think it can. I don't think it's the only possible explanation, and I think that alone cannot create a haunting experience. I think you need, you know, what looks like a haunted environment, or you need a location that has a bit of history. If the same sort of thing happens, if you're affected by magnetic fields and you're in, you know, a new apartment, like a new condo or somewhere like that, you're maybe not going to attribute what's happening to you to the presence of a spirit.
Right.
If you're having a visual hallucination, also population stereotype will kind of come to play. If you're in a Tudor palace, then you're going to see a Tudor figure. If you're in, you know, an old dungeon, you might even see a torture, somebody, you know, responsible for torturing, a monastery, a monk, that sort of thing. So it's not magnetic fields alone that I think would be responsible for fields. There's other things going on.
Are there ghosts, actual dead people still lurking the earth?
In my opinion, I think people see ghosts. I think people experience ghosts. That's without a doubt. What they are, that's another question.
Could you bring over the baseball bat, Andrew? Are there ghosts? It's a simple question.
And is it a yes or no question?
Yes or no? I'm just kidding. We're not going to break your kneecaps. But it crossed my mind. Is that awful?
Yeah.
We're going to get results. No, I understand. I understand the position. Have you had an experience where you say, I've ruled everything out and got nothing left?
I've seen fire exit doors opening of their own accord in a nightclub that's now closed down, and it's a place where they had many spontaneous fires and they couldn't necessarily explain them. I've seen that happen. I've never had any personal experience in terms of sense of presence, that sort of stuff. When people ask me about it, I always say, well, I've had hundreds of experiences, but I know the possible causes of them. I know it could be infrasound, it could be EMF, it could be a number of different things.
Right. Well,
so it's down to interpretation, basically.
The show's about half over, and anything's possible, as we've learned in this building today. It's quite active with all kinds of unexplained activity, to be sure. We got some questions for you via email today and on Facebook. Sarah.
Yeah, we do. So one that I got was they want to know what your unique role is as a parapsychologist when it comes to paranormal investigating. Like, what makes you kind of stand out? What does that give you in terms of maybe strengths?
That's a good question. I guess it's knowledge, because as a parapsychologist we have to be aware of the psychology behind haunting experiences. We have to be aware of the environmental research about haunting experience. So I guess the extra thing that I bring to an investigation is if something happens, I'll know about the alternative explanations and kind of know how to analyze it.
All right, let's talk about an investigation from Most Haunted. Most Haunted live at Corvin Castle. We actually have a picture of that as well. This was one of the live specials that you folks did every year.
That's right.
And so, I mean, when you learn you're going in to do something like this live TV can be very scary.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
We've done this a few times, and things can go wrong. What's the approach on a live show like that?
Well, you have to differentiate it from the episodes that we film for Most Haunted. On an episode, you may have 7 or 8 people involved in it. On a live show, you'll have anything up to about 120 people involved in the production.
Sure.
It's huge, huge production. In terms of approaching it as an investigative team, what you've got to think of is, there's no double take, there's no stop, we have to shoot that again. Basically, you're there for 3 hours or whatever the length of the production is, and you just investigate. You just go around, go to the haunted places, that sort of thing. I loved Corvin Castle because, of course, it's in Romania. It is associated with the real Dracula,
right.
Vlad the Impaler, but I had to be a little bit sceptical of that when I turned up, realizing that Vlad the Impaler may have stayed there as a boy a couple of times, and that's the only link, really. So, that it's not Dracula's castle as everybody thinks.
Sure. Well, Romania has got several sites that just, any connection at all. He walked by here once.
Exactly.
He marched his army by. It becomes.
He left his toothbrush here one day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's so true because people need that connection to the past, to fame or infamy. I mean, depending on your perspective, of course. And that's one of the things that happens with a lot of these locations. We call it most famous phenomena, right?
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you say, well, it seems to be haunted, and it must be Vlad, who was here as a boy and is going to linger here forever.
Exactly, and it's just fascinating that you're dealing with a castle. I mean, you look at it; it's basically a Hollywood castle. It's absolutely perfect. It just looks spooky. It looks like it's right out of a Hollywood set. But you've got hundreds of people that have basically lived there, died there. There've been battles there, completely disassociated from Vlad the Impaler. Why wouldn't they be haunting the place? Why does it have to be Vlad the Impaler? And you're right, it's that celebrity worship thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And okay, so some of the things you've talked about doing in the live show, putting people in a coffin, strapping people down, trying to create what would be a pretty horrible experience for your average person, but I guess another day on the job for a paranormal person. Is that, do you think that affects our perception? I mean, if our fear is heightened, does it heighten our senses? Does it heighten our ability to perceive?
Yeah, definitely. What you've got to be aware of is, in psychology, there have been decades and decades of research showing that our perception, whether it's visual or auditory, but our perception can be altered by anxiety, stress, fear, a number of different things, but those are kind of the top three.
Right.
Now, in a allegedly haunted location, when the lights are off, when it's dark, you've got anxiety, stress, and fear, the top three.
Sure.
Of course they're going to affect our perception of anything that happens.
Right. And do you have a favorite haunt you've done, especially in Europe?
Aside from Hampton Court Palace, which I just absolutely love to visit, I guess, Tower of London. I'm jealous of you because you've been into the Tower of London.
We're there right now. It's right behind us.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah, right. See?
Can we get in there?
We can.
I'd love to get in there.
Knock on the wall here, yeah.
I'd love to investigate Tower of London. I'd love to get in there and actually investigate. Beyond that, when I was involved with Most Haunted, we did Pendle Hill, associated with the witches and that sort of thing. And we actually did an investigation of a farm called Tynedale Farm.
Right.
And it's dubious as to whether it has any association with witches at all, other than just being geographically placed in that area. But on that particular occasion when we were investigating, people were dropping like flies, basically just fainting, overcome, couldn't breathe, and at some point, out of a crew of 12 people, there was myself and 2 others left standing. Everybody else had been taken out with the paramedics. And it's my favourite location because so much happened. I think it's simple psychology. I think part of it is dramatics. But it was just one of those occasions where you stand there and go, Jesus, I'm like a medic in a battlefield. I don't know what to do.
Right. Understood. And have you seen any evidence, whether it be EVP, electronic voice phenomena, any video footage or anything that's challenged your skepticism?
I'm presented with evidence all the time. There are particular occasions where I'm presented with evidence either on Most Haunted, where I've got to be immediately skeptical because we're dealing with a televised investigation. There have been photographs, there have been videos. I've also read kind of transcripts from famous cases like the Enfield Poltergeist, and it's all of these particular incidents, Enfield Poltergeist being a classic, that are head-scratching moments that kind of keep me in the field. They keep me researching.
Right. Well, we do have other questions for you. Miss Sarah?
I do. I was told to ask you what your most widely published or viewed photograph is, and for you to describe it for us.
My most okay. I wish that question had not been asked.
Ah, good.
Because everybody thinks it's me on Most Haunted, or it's me investigating a haunted location. No, there is a photograph out there that has been shown in 95 territories, millions and millions newspaper reports, and it's me in a chicken suit.
Ah, we don't have that.
Classic, I know.
Someone is going to get fired. All of you.
I just
Me
found out.
in a chicken suit.
To the web,
Yeah.
quick. You've got minutes.
Basically, my PhD supervisor, he did a study looking for the funniest joke in the world.
Right.
And he said on this particular day, I'm going to reveal the funniest joke in the world. Do you want to earn 50 quid, £50, if you dress up in a chicken suit and do the reveal? And I revealed the joke, and of course the entire world's press was standing there waiting to hear the funniest joke. And it was me in the chicken suit.
We are going to add that photo in post-production, I promise you right now. And here it is. Put it there. Got it. Good. All right. Well done. Good question. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. Do you have moments on Most Haunted where were you worried about what your academic peers are going to think of you? Do you struggle with that, or is
Every
it
episode, yeah.
every episode?
Every episode,
just
in
those.
a way, yeah. Every episode, because it is very different to the daily life of as a parapsychologist.
Right.
And I do worry about it to some extent, but my colleagues, like I said, my fellow parapsychologists, even my fellow psychologists, know that my research speaks for itself.
Right.
Because it's in peer-reviewed journals, because I present at conferences, that sort of thing. And I keep telling them, look, issues about things like orbs, issues about EMF meters being ghost detectors, this sort of thing.
Right.
As academics, we're preaching to the converted, whereas on a TV show, we can get a message across to the masses that orbs are not first stage of manifestation of spirit, that EMF meters are not ghost detectors. So
Right.
it's a great, a great environment, a great environment to actually, I'm sorry to ruin it for you, burst the bubble. But it's a great environment,
Right.
to actually get that message across.
Right. And what's the upside? What have you seen as a positive since being on TV and being able to do this, as a, it's quite an adventure, if nothing else,
It
right?
is a huge adventure, and of course I've visited hundreds of locations worldwide. Also, I've since then had book offers as well. I'm here,
Right.
with you.
You got all the way to 30
There you
odd minutes.
go.
Wow.
There you go.
You should aim higher, much higher.
So that I've been on other TV shows, National Geographic, Discovery, and I think just as an academic, that research, and those opportunities would not be there. But being on the TV show has given me a little bit more exposure.
And the chicks like that, am I right?
And
The
the
ladies?
chicks dig it.
Yeah, they do. The babes like TV shows. Not this one so much, because we're
Right,
kind of
okay.
below the radar, everyone's radar. But we try hard.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about some of the books. Your latest book, this one, Paranormal Clash.
That's right.
There it is. Maybe those will stay up. So, is it a clash? Do you think it's a constant argument? Are we in an argument with science, with believers and disbelievers?
I think to some extent that particular book is co-written with a medium. Basically, it's him giving his opinion and perspective on things in terms of evidence, me giving mine,
Right.
and seeing that it is a clash, that mediums look at things very, very differently. Although I'm finding more and more as you speak to more and more mediums, especially about haunting investigations, that sort of thing, is that sometimes we do see eye to eye, that especially with mediums, they view fraudulent mediums, they view mediums who are, immediately dramatic and get possessed at the drop of a hat, that they damage their reputation. And
Right.
that, I meet a lot of mediums who are very quick to point the finger and say, no, that medium is fraudulent. So
Right.
occasionally we see eye to eye.
Do you think there's something to it? Are you, they seem to be no offense to some of our medium friends, some of them are rather needy. Is
Right.
one word to describe them. Need constant validation of their gifts if that's indeed what they are. Are we all psychic? Is this just a natural extension of perceptions, or do you think some people really have sight beyond?
It's a tough question to ask me. When you ask mediums, it varies between those that think we all have a latent ability and we just need it drawn out. There are others that say, no, it's a natural ability, you're either born with it, that's it. So there's disagreement with mediums. Parapsychologists, however, would argue that based on their research in the laboratory, they can show that just any member of the public or random members of the public can show telepathic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually show that in the lab. And so for them, the argument is, well, no, you don't necessarily need somebody that claims to be a medium or claims to be psychic to show that ability exists.
Believe or disbelieve? Mediums? Where's the bat? I swear to God.
No, don't
we will
force
get
me.
through this guy.
No, don't force me. It's not about belief for me. I'm open-minded. And, a colleague of mine, he says, in terms of mediums, there are hundreds, thousands of mediums worldwide. I've tested loads as part of my PhD, and since then, and I haven't found or been presented with any evidence that would convince me that there is such a thing as a medium. But my colleague says, kind of right, well, like William James said, you only need to find one white crow to disprove that all crows are black.
Yeah,
That's,
right.
So you only need to find that one, basically, and then you kind of blow the idea out of the water.
Well, let's talk about some of the lab work that's been done, especially on ESP. Zener cards, which people may recognize, the star and the wavy lines and the circle and things like that. Zener cards, predictions affecting something that's seemingly random. Parapsychologists years ago have proved that intent and focused people can affect, for lack of a specific term, a coin toss, right?
Right.
You would expect 50-50 results, and are people able to influence?
Yeah, I think you're talking about some of the early Rhine research done at the Institute of Parapsychology, and even parapsychologists today recognise that there could be an issue with the way some of those experiments were conducted.
Okay.
However, there is a course of research that was done at Princeton, the Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, where they actually came out with positive results and said, yeah, at the end of the day, we've got PK ability. We can show it in the lab. The tests, stand up to any sort of parapsychology criticism. They're saying that the ability is there, that we have the ability to kind of manipulate objects. The study speaks for itself. I'd have to hold up my hands and say, respect to you for showing that. Let's try and replicate it and see if we get the same effect again.
Is Rhine, are other institutes like Rhine still conducting that research, or is it done?
Like I said at the beginning of the interview, there is generally a decline in parapsychology because of funding, because of its lack of acceptance in science. Even the Institute of Parapsychology, or the Rhine Research Centre as it's now called, has had to kind of embrace new age ideas to get funding, to get people through the doors.
Right.
So there is a little bit of research being done by some of the directors, but in the main, it's more about workshops, getting speakers in, that sort of thing. So even the kind of the founding of parapsychology, that institute, is now more of an educational establishment than a research place.
Right. Well, you are in America for the next couple of weeks, and you're going to see some amazing sights, I understand. One place, the Concord's Colonial Inn, I know you're having an event there.
Yeah.
We're not going to say when, because this show is going to air for weeks on end. The Colonial Inn, if we could show it, you know what happened right down the street there, don't you?
Are you going to tell me?
No, do you know?
No, is it something to do with the English?
It was the shot heard round the world. Let me.
No.
Thank you.
Not the Boston Tea Party.
We really should have brought you tea earlier on here. I apologize. Yeah, Concord. That was the first shot of the Revolutionary War. That was your people and my people going at it. And oh yeah, the Boston Massacre. How's the tea, by the way?
It's great. Thank you very much.
Now, I'm not psychic, but I'm going to make a prediction.
Oh yeah.
You're thinking about taxing that tea, aren't you? You are thinking about taxing that tea.
It's not the only thing I'm thinking about doing with this tea right now.
I have one too. I must warn you, it's just as hot. They're the same temperature. And yeah, so you're going to be there. And I want to tell you about one of the haunted rooms. It was a medical facility. It's where the doctor was tending to the wounded. Both sides, because Americans are like that. We're good people.
That's nice of
We
you.
even took care of the British. We use them for parts. So when you're there, can you fake an American accent? You may need it.
Can I fake an American accent? Badly.
Well.
Really badly.
Well,
You want me to actually call out for the spirits to do something with an American accent?
Well,
I think I'd get more of a response just speaking as an Englishman.
As a Brit. So I'm just warning you, the shot heard round the world was right down the street from the Colonial Inn, and of course the Boston Massacre, which is now behind us, and that wonderful Paul Revere print. We appreciate it, Paul. Look at that. The Brits just slaughtering. Oh, man. This is terrible.
I can think of, a lot of four-letter words that I'd like to say. Is this peace? Is this?
No. We peed in that. Folks, thank you for joining us on 30 Odd Minutes. We appreciate you, Dr. Ciaran O. Keeffe. It's been a pleasure, sir. Enjoy your stay here in our fine country. Till next time, stay odd. Yeah!